Hello, and welcome to this edition of People in Transition. I'm your host, Bob Gerst. I've been hiring, firing, and mentoring executives, frontline employees, interns, and job seekers in companies around the world through a host of transitions, some difficult, but most very good. I work with people in Hong Kong, India, Australia, and across the United States. What sets them apart? A lot, but there's more they have in common. And one of those commonalities is transition is a part of life. This experience has given me a bird's eye view on a variety of trends, economies, industry disruptors, and transitions that are big and small. It also brought me into contact with the thought leaders and decision makers you need to meet, the people who can make the difference that matters to you right now. Imagine knowing exactly what to do next and how to know it's time to make your big change. The insight track you're going to access during our future episodes is better than a crystal ball. It's the exact information you need to take that next step. Whether you're a new grad applying for your first professional job, someone looking to transition your work experience into a promotion, launching your own company, or maybe even starting to plan your retirement, you're in transition, and this series is for you. We all know transition can be scary, but it doesn't have to be. And it's even fun when you have VIP access to the future you want. Are you tired of the uncertainty of being passed up? We'll share with you the tools and skills that can take your dreams to the front of the line. So, if change is on your horizon, or maybe just the thought of change, you won't want to miss this discussion. It could be the exact edge you need to turn transition into an amazing opportunity. Brandon Schaefer, thank you so much for being with us today. I'm really looking forward to this interview.
Me as well. I'm excited to be here. I'm going to try not to blow out my mic or blow out your mic with enthusiasm and passion. But really excited to be here. It's been a long time in the actual making from when we first came across each other a little over a year ago, and you definitely made an immediate impact on me. Happy to be here.
Brandon, let's start off with probably the three people in the entire world that don't know of you. When you're younger, what did you want to be when you, and I'm going to air quote here, when you grew up?
I'm still growing up every day, man. For me, I don't know if it was any one particular thing that I wanted to do or be. I was a really shy kid. I was in an accident when I was younger, and I stuttered a lot when I was going through like primary school, first through 5th grade, 6th grade, 7th grade, 8th grade. And then 9th grade, I started to make a little bit of a transition, started to shake out of that. And there's absolutely nothing incorrect with that. It was just something that occurred and took a lot of work to get through. And, I think for me, I just had to learn, put the left foot in front of the right and just keep walking forward in a positive direction. And wherever that leads me is going to lead me. So I didn't have an end destination, like a policeman or a fireman or a pilot or something. It was kind of just I'm just going to do what I feel is best for me at that moment in time, which can be scary at some points, and just move forward. So I didn't have an end destination, which is good and bad.
Brandon, tell me about some of the transitions that you went through in your life to get you to where you're at today.
Well, even if I go back to when I was younger, talking about that transition from having trouble speaking to learning to slow down, learning to overcome things that I thought were failures at that point in time, but they really weren't failures. They were just kind of setbacks. And there's a big difference between a setback and a failure. There's a big difference between a mindset and an actual failure. So I came out fighting, right out of the gate. So it was never really easy for me. I won't say, in school, I wasn't a star student in school. I played a lot of sports, and I wasn't a star athlete by any means. But I was a good athlete. I was in the middle of the pack. I was in the middle of the pack in school. I was in the middle of the pack in sports. And my whole life has been overcoming. My parents got split up when I was young, and I had to kind of work through those types of things. So I always like to share this is that you can write whatever book you want to, and I'm not saying you, Bob, specifically, but I just, that's just the way that I talk, right? Because I'm talking to myself most of the time because I'm doing all these video things. I'm looking into the camera, so I'm talking to myself. You can write whatever book you want. And when I was younger, I was writing a book, but it was a book of feeling less than, a book of feeling like, hey, maybe I don't deserve this. I was writing the chapters, but I was writing the wrong content within that book. And that's why when I started to get a little bit older and I came to the realization that, oh my goodness, the book that I've been writing is all wrong. I need to rip these pages up. So I started to rip these pages up. And then I started to rewrite the book. Whatever story you tell yourself is a story you're going to believe. So I had a belief that, hey, I was going to do this because I'm supposed to do that because my parents are split up, because I had trouble talking, because I come from a different background, like I'm supposed to act like that. So I started acting like that. And then it started to come to me that, like, thank goodness there were people in my life saying, Brandon, man, you don't need to do that. I needed positive people around me. And I wish you were around back 30 years ago when I was going through everything, but you come across people when it's the right time to come across them. And I come across a lot of people and I didn't listen to their messages because it wasn't the right time. And that's why persistence wears down resistance. I need to hear the same messages from different people at different times in my life to actually get it.
You've got me for the next 30 years, Brandon.
Yes.
Brandon, let's say a friend just calls you this weekend and tells you that they've lost their job because their company is going out of business because of the COVID crisis. What are the 2 or 3 things that you coach that friend to do right away?
Don't beat yourself up and don't give up. Don't beat yourself up. Don't give up. Just like I started this out with, here's a common theme. Put the left foot in front of the right foot just every single day. Wake up. Left, right, left, right, left, right. Just like you're walking up steps. Don't drive out of the rearview mirror. Continue to look forward. When one door closes, 12 open up. I assure you, if you open up your mind and you open up your eyes and you open up yourself to new opportunities, you're going to see that what happened to you may not be the worst experience. It may end up being the best experience, but it has to be in that positive mindset that you stay. I get it. It's not good. It hurts. I've been in several different situations on both sides of the stick. And the main thing is you have to be a fighter and you have to be true to yourself, man. Be true to you. There's nothing more important than to be in the right mindset. And you do that by waking up in the morning and by taking 5 minutes. I don't know if you do this, Bob, or not, but take 5 minutes, breathe, deep breathe. I write down a gratitude list. I write down 5 things I'm thankful for every single morning. And it's just little notes. It might be like, I'm thankful for being warm in my lovely home today. There's a lot of people outside that don't have a home. They're cold. They're out on the street. That's the stuff I look for. It's the little stuff. I'm thankful for having clean water to drink. It all depends on how you look at it. You get fired, you leave, you get your box, you put everything in there and you start walking out the door and you don't start breaking glass on the way out or chairs. You say, thank you very much for my time here. I sincerely appreciate it. Thank you, because you never know who is going to circle back in your life. And in my life, I know that my worst enemies sometimes have circled back and become my best advocates. I just don't know. I keep an open mind. I always stay accepting, forgiving, understanding. I'm not saying anything that's like outlandish or new or anything here. I'm talking about the core fundamental relationship steps for success that have been around for hundreds and thousands and millions of years, however long we've been here.
Great stuff. Brandon, you talked about writing your book, writing your chapters. What do you do in the middle of the night and those gremlins of fear and doubt and depression get into your head and they tell you you're not good as you think you are, that you've been an imposter all these years and they have found you out finally and that you'll maybe never work again? How do you deal with those gremlins?
I always say I have an imaginary scale, and fear is on one side and courage is on the other. And as long as courage is that slightest bit heavier, as long as that courage is a little bit greater than the fear, I know I'm safe. At nighttime, when that happens to me today. It can happen at any point. It can happen during the day, at night, after I leave an appointment. There's been so many times when I was about to quit and give it all up, right? I was just about to say, you know what? I'm just going to go and just do the standard thing that my granddad did, that my dad was a pilot, so that's not a standard thing, but just a normal old job. I'm going to go to it. Screw it. I'm not going to do this. And the phone rang. The phone rang. The miracle happened right there. And it was one of my clients. And they got me back on board just like that. But that's the type of, if I had the fear, if I let my fear take over and I had done what I was going to do before I let the magic happen, then that situation would have never occurred. But I think the real thing that everyone needs to do is realize how they're thinking or how they're feeling and digest that and understand and just take a second and breathe in. And then understand that just because you feel that way doesn't mean you need to act out and you need to act irrationally or out of haste or anything else like that. Understand, and I know this is so tough to do. Give yourself 3 to 5 seconds. Give yourself 3 to 5 seconds and say, I understand how I'm feeling, but this is not going to hold me down. I'm going to move forward because ultimately it's you that has the power to do that. So always have that courage greater than the fear. And it also helps, Bob, to surround yourself. And this is why it's vitally important to surround yourself with people doing the right things, man, with people taking care of their families, with people taking care of their partners, taking care of their parents, their kids. You know, it's not like our emotions are a light switch where we can walk out of a room and turn the switch and the light goes off. You know, we have these things. We need to deal with them and who we hang around or who we're going to be. So that's the whole piece that you need to surround yourself with people that are going to be helpful to you and not those tornadoes of doom and gloom, because you'll start buying that story if you hang around them long enough.
Yeah, what's that old saying that we are the average of our 5 closest friends? And if those 5 closest friends are toxic, negative, doomsayers, guess what we'll be, right?
Yeah, and you have to have a peer group too, Bob. So, you know, if you're feeling that way, it's always good in business to have a guy or girl that you're close to that you can reach out and say, hey, I'm feeling this way. Because once you say it out loud, like verbally, or you write it down, I'm a big advocate for writing things down, like physically getting a pen or pencil and a piece of paper and writing down the way I'm feeling. I am feeling this. And then, but I also always put, and this is not going to rule my life. This is what's going to rule my life. And I always overcome it. You know, it's the same thing. So talk it out with somebody. It's the same thing. If you're not able to talk to somebody, write it. If you're able to talk to somebody, then talk to them and write it. Get double the power. But just reach out to a friend or something. Say, hey, listen, I'm this is the way I'm feeling. And good friends won't give you advice on what to do, how you're doing. They're going to say, I totally understand. I totally understand. But the time to prepare your friendships is before you need it, not when you need it, not in the midst of it all. That's why you need to constantly be doing the right thing. You know, I constantly talk about doing the right things, hanging around the right people, getting around a proper peer group, having these close confidants that you can talk to, that you can discuss things with, that you can share personal things with. Maybe something's not going right with your kids or home, because a lot for me, Bob, has to do with business and personal, right? Because how I treat people in my personal life is most likely how I'm going to treat people in my business life. And how I treat people in my business life is how I'm most likely going to treat people in my personal life. And that's why I need them both running on all cylinders, 365 days a year, 7 days a week, headed in a positive direction. My coaching practice, my philosophy is that each individual has the answer inside of them. I, as a coach, have an obligation to help them find that and get that out. And to your point, a good friend is not going to tell you the answer. A good friend is going to listen and be empathetic and help you get that out. So I agree with you completely on that. Brandon, do you have a favorite question or two that you like to ask a company that you're potentially going to do business with? And the same is true as a candidate looking at a particular company to join. Do you have a favorite question or two that you like to ask that company to help you get to know that company better? Yeah. Who do you help and how often? Who do you help and how often are you helping? Those are the two questions. Hey, Brandon, you did a great job. This was a great interview, so forth and so forth. Yeah, that's great. Can I ask you a couple questions real quick? Can I just know? Yeah, and I'll know this a lot because I'll do the research ahead of time. But hey, man, what type of local organizations are you helping? What type of national organizations are you helping? Those are the types of things that I want to know, because in the end, if I know a company is helping on a local or national level, they're going to be most likely a very good company to partner with, right? Because if they're taking care of the outside, they're most likely going to take care of the inside. So that's one of the main questions that I like. And I always like to do research and maybe talk to one or two people that have worked there for a little while and just talk to them and say, hey, how are things here? What type of environment is it? Is it kind? Is it gentle? Those are really the two things. I know a lot of people want me to answer with some type of business question or something else like that. But everything that I really focus on is on the relationships, because I know relationships drive business. Great companies hire great people. And that's just the way I feel about it.
Kind of along that lines, Brandon, how do you use professional organizations to your advantage during your transition?
Oh my goodness. This is probably one of the most important things that you can do. I'll repeat what I said a couple minutes ago. The time to prepare is before you need it. Always, always. Your resume is a living document. It is a book. And if it's not a resume, you're creating some type of video content, blog content, written content, evergreen content. You're publishing a book. You always need to be, and again, I'm not saying you, Bob, that's just the way that I talk, but you always need to be creating a new journey in your life and documenting it as you go along. Because what happens is you work for a company for 10, 15, or 20 years, 25 years, whatever it is, and you didn't create that story, right? So you went away on a trip, you won this, whatever club they call it, whatever the new award is or so forth. You went here, you went there, you did this, you participated in this training, you participated in helping American Cancer Society raise, $1 million in a fundraiser for the East Coast, stuff like that. If you're not writing that down, when everything comes to a head, right? When you get let go and you're looking for a new job, your brain isn't going to be able to think clearly. And when it's not able to think clearly, it's not going to be able to recall all those great, magnificent things you've done. So I'd say today, anybody listening to this or anybody that's going to listen to this is start creating a daily like paragraph or two of the highlights of what you accomplished during that day, maybe something that you did, because when the time comes, you'll have a year's worth of immediate data to go and look at and say, oh, I did this, I did this, I did this. And it's all stuff that's going to help build you back up mentally, because we're going to be hurt. You're going to be hurt. When we get hurt, we stop thinking properly. Our brain it doesn't shut down, but it starts firing different signals to us, right? It's fight or flight at that point. And that's never a good situation. So always create a book for yourself and take, 5 minutes at the end of every day and write down those things that you accomplished. And then when you need it, you can go back, recall it, and quickly put it into a resume. You can quickly go onto a networking site and share your information with them.
Brandon, what does you need to take charge of your career? What does that line mean to you?
Taking charge of your career means being accountable to yourself. Oh my God, I just spoke about this yesterday. It was discipline, commitment. So you have to have the discipline in my life, right? That's taking control. That's being in control of my destiny. When I have discipline, I know that I have clear objectives for that day. Hey, this needs to be accomplished. So I always like to check myself. Hey, am I moving closer to my goal, or am I moving further away from my goal? The commitment is how dedicated are you to actually getting to where you want to go? When you hit the detour, do you turn around and go home? Or do you take the left? Are you able to walk? Are you able to do this? These are all things that are needed. But the one way you get to that is by being true to yourself. When I wasn't true to myself, it was very, very difficult. When I said, I don't care what people are going to think. Yeah, I may talk. Yes, I may talk funny sometimes. Yes, I may talk slow. Yes, I may talk fast. Yes, it doesn't matter. Whatever it is, I'm going to be true to myself. And that is the number one point of strength. If you can get there, you're going to be successful and drive through any circumstance, any situation with anyone, because you know that you can rely on yourself. If you're not able to rely on yourself, and we're hoping that somebody else is going to do it for us, it's not going to happen. No one's going to knock on my door and say, Brandon, come on. This is a perfect opportunity for you. I'm going to have to knock on 30, 40, 50 doors before that happens. Yeah, 100 doors, 100 years, 20 years, whatever it is.
How do you answer that killer interview question? Tell me what your weaknesses are.
Woo! Oh, you didn't set me up with this one, Bob. Holy crikeys, man. Okay. Now, tell me what your weaknesses are. My immediate first response, and this may be funny, is why don't you tell me what yours are? But obviously, you never, ever say that. You never say that. But that's what I'm thinking. And like I said before, what I'm thinking doesn't mean the way that I'm going to act. Tell me my weaknesses. My weaknesses are probably just overcoming. It's more on a personal level. Just overcoming the daily mindset to show up, to put forth my best effort, and to be the best that I can be the best employee that I can be the best person that I can be to the people that work here. That's a struggle some days. It's a struggle. But I always say this, I can assure you of this. I'm aware of it. And every single morning when I wake up, I participate in activities that help me overcome that, right? And I look at it day by day. Every single day I look to improve. So that, yes, that is a weakness, but also there is a way that I overcome it or offset it because I'm actively participating in overcoming it on a daily basis.
Brendan, you talked about creating a journal of events, a book for yourself of where the growth has been and where you're going. Many of today's careers, and I maintain life in general, doesn't have that linear upward ladder trajectory. It's a much curlier progression. How do you know you're growing if you don't have those upward ladder trajectory kind of milestone markers and you're going on that curly journey?
You have to set goals. In the business work, we call them KPIs, but in just natural plain English, you have to set goals. It's like my mom moved. Hey, Brandon, you want to come over to my house? Yeah, sure. I'll be there on Sunday at 5:00. She never gave me her address. Without a goal, without an address, i.e. a goal, you're never going to know where you need to go. So you need to set goals. You need to define them. You need to share your goals. Who else knows about them? Is it just you that knows about them? You need people to keep you accountable. You need to be able to measure the progress. Like, are you getting closer or are you getting further away? Like I just mentioned, is look at yourself throughout the day and just see if you're hanging out at Starbucks for 5 hours or going out to a nice lunch for 2 hours and there's only, 8 hours in a workday or something else like that. Maybe you start packing a lunch, those are simple things. But I would always say people try to take the big chunks. People always try to take the big chunks. In our house, we have the steps that go up. It's like it goes up like, 6 or 7 steps. Then there's a landing. Then it goes up another 6, 7 steps. Then it goes up another 6, like that way, And I always tell my kids, if you try to jump from the floor to the first landing, it's probably 6 or 7 steps. You're never going to get there. And that's what we do with our goals. We set our goals so astronomically high that it's almost impossible to reach them. So what I say is put your left foot on the left step. Put your right foot on the second step. Put your left foot on the third step. Those are the small steps. So set daily goals and then set weekly goals, monthly goals, quarterly goals, semi-annual goals, annual goals, stuff along like that. But take down those daily targets. So I call them daily targets and then goals. So a daily target is something that you need to do on a daily basis to get you to your goal. And the goal is that long-term thing. So I focus on targets rather than the big goal picture, but I always have that end goal in mind, and I have that picture, and I always start at the finish line. So a lot of people will start at the starting line and work their way backwards. I figure out what the goal is, and then I reverse engineer it and say, okay, this is what I need to do. I want to do this in 365 days. Here's the end goal. This is what I need to do every single day and break it down like that. It's the same way with jobs. If you're looking for a job, just figure out, just promise yourself, hey, I'm going to get in touch with 3 new companies every single day via LinkedIn or personal outreach or whichever method is out there, Indeed, Monster, any of the sites, or through an executive recruiter. But also, take your responsibility. This comes down to what we spoke about earlier, which is taking responsibility for yourself. Don't count on somebody else to do everything for you. If someone's promising you that you're going to get the job, go in there, man, and put forth your effort. Get in there somehow, some way. I assure you, there is a way to get in front of the decision maker. There is a way to get in front of the people. And Bob, you've been on the hiring side for a long time. You know this too. The good people find a way to get noticed. The good people find a way to get noticed. Is that what you found too? Am I crazy or?
100% correct. And my coaching with my clients that are in transition, people who make 40 connections a week find jobs faster than people who made 20 connections a week. People who made 60 connections a week find jobs faster than those that made 40 connections, and so forth. You're going to make your own luck when you take accountability for that. What does taking care of your personal brand mean to you, and how can you improve on that brand that you have?
So everyone has a personal brand. You are your own personal brand. For me, myself, I like to shoot videos. Now, everybody does different things for different reasons. So some people write very well, so they create blog content or something else like that. But I always recommend that regardless of seniority level, job position, anything else, again, it comes down to taking 5 minutes, 10 minutes a day and just writing down something. So if you're coming from a sales position, you're looking to get another sales position. What if you had 2 years of 5 minutes a day in writing of the most interesting question that any customer or prospect asks you? What do you think that would do for you? Like you'd have so much, and then you shared about that. You either wrote a piece of content about it or you did a quick video. Hey, this is the most interesting question that I learned today. That's part of building influence, of building authority. And a lot of stuff is done via social handoff now. Today, it's so much easier to get a job when you know people and they actually say, hey, why don't you interview Brandon? Or, hey, I have a great person for you. You've probably had this happen a ton too, Bob, is where somebody says, hey, if a position ever becomes available, I'm just letting you know, I have a great person for you. They don't give a name. They don't give anything. That's the type of stuff that leaves an imprint. When you build your own personal brand online, you are building authority, you're building influence, and you are leaving an imprint. People may not tell you that they're seeing they're seeing your content, that they're liking your content. 95% of the people out there aren't going to like it. They're not going to leave a comment. But I can assure you, with me, it's probably the number one thing. It's not even probably. It is in every single prospect or customer interaction at the beginning or at the end, 99% of the time, they say, hey, listen, I like this video. I watch your stuff all the time. I love this one video. I related to it so much. But if you're not doing stuff, if you're not putting yourself out there, you have no opportunity. You have to be in it to win it. It's the same thing in life. It's the same thing in business. If you're not putting yourself out there ever, and then you lose your job, and then you go into high gear of putting yourself out there, it doesn't look totally natural. So what we want to do is start today. What we want to do is make that commitment today to start growing our brand organically. And that is just by, hey, maybe you go on Facebook and you share something helpful. Maybe you even if you commit to one time a week posting something, it doesn't even have to be your information. It can be somebody else's, and you write 2 or 3 sentences. Hey, I really enjoyed this. This was very helpful to me. Perhaps you'll like it as well. And then as you start to do that more, you'll start to say, hey, I'm just reading other people's content. Why don't I just create my own piece? So this drives my wife crazy. I always say this, I'm not watching TV. I'm making my own TV. I'm not doing it anymore. I'm tired of other people being successful, right? I'm tired of watching other people do it. I just want to do it myself. And I transition those words into, I've done it. I've done it. I've stopped with the doing. I'm going to do that. I stopped using should, could, would. Those words are all words that don't put me in a state of power. I stopped asking why, what, who did that? Why, what, who? Who did that? Why do they do that? What's going on here? They all put people's backs up against the wall. So when I stopped using who, what, why, when I stopped using should, could, would, and I started talking, I've done that, or I'm doing that right now, rather than I'm going to do that, or I should have done that, or I could have done that, or if only I would have thrown that football 2 inches lower, we would have won the Super Bowl. It's easy to be the Monday morning quarterback, but get that power and start taking control of your life and building your brand today. Don't wait until tomorrow. Do it today. Take 5 minutes, start writing.
How does your health impact how you go through any transition in your life?
For me, physical fitness is a huge, huge part. Whether you walk after dinner, whether you walk at lunch, And you'll see a lot of these things that I'm talking about are what are called triggers. And I'm not a psychologist. I've been to many psychologists, but I am not a psychologist myself by any means. I probably could be with as many times I've been there. But these are all triggers. So what I'm saying is when you wake up in the morning, you trigger yourself by getting the right mindset. It says, hey, I'm here, I'm awake, I'm alive, and I'm going to make it happen today. You trigger yourself first thing. Then you go on through the physical part, whether it's going for a walk in the morning, that fresh air, anything else like that. You get the body going, you hold your hands up, you spread your fingers wide. These are all triggers saying, hey, I'm awake, I'm here, I'm ready. So always, for me, I always stay in good physical shape because it helps me mentally. At the end of the day, I'm exhausted. My mind I'm racing 100 miles per hour. I don't know what the heck happened. I was going north, then I ended up going south, and I hit a detour, and I had to go left. I had to circle back around. So for me, getting out and doing some type of physical exercise, whatever your level is, if you like aerobics, walking, I like to get the heart rate going for at least 30 minutes. And if not every day, every other day. I'm a big advocate for the physical portion. I don't know if you're going to ask the eating portion, but the eating portion too, what you put in your body is a big difference for your brain as well.
Brandon, any books or other resources that you would recommend to someone who's going through a transition?
I think the best book that you can read is the one that you write. I really, really do. And it's take 5 minutes, read it. I know we can read Good to Great. I know we can read The 4-Hour Work Week by Tim Ferriss. I know we can read all these different books, Chicken Soup for the Soul, all these different things. I know the best book that I ever read is the one that I'm going to write when we hang up this call here. I'm going to take 5 minutes. I'm going to recap. You know why? Because I'm feeling inspired from this conversation. And whenever you're feeling inspired throughout the day, take a pen and paper. If you want to type it out on your computer, on notes or on tasks or anything else like that, just keep a running tab. Write 2 or 3 sentences. That's going to be the best book that you can ever go back because it's you. It's your story. It's your life. But I also am a big advocate for education. I think education changes lives. Education changes income. And it changes family trees. I don't have any specific books besides your own, but I'm a big advocate for just people that say, hey, this may be a good book for you to read.
You said you had something else that you wanted to share?
Yeah, so I just wanted to close with this. So when I met you a year and 2 months ago, I had given a presentation. And after the presentation, at the end of the presentation, because it was a personalized presentation, it was a one-off presentation. I practiced. I had gone over with my professional development coach. We had gone over. And at the end of that presentation, I had said, hey, listen. And I was talking to everybody. There was probably 40, 45 people there. And I said to everybody, if I stumbled on some of these words, if I did anything wrong, I'm sorry. Because this was a one-off type presentation. And it didn't faze anybody else. But for the proven pro like yourself, you came up to me afterwards. You said, Brandon, I loved everything you said. Don't ever take it away at the end. Is that something that you remember, Bob?
I do.
You came up and said that. And from that day, it still gives me chills today. I said, this is my kind of guy. He is my kind of guy. Brandon, don't ever take it away. You stood up here. You nailed it. You did a great job. Don't ever do anything to take it away. And that is what I want people to know that are listening here. Get inspired from within. Don't let anybody take it away, no matter where you're from, what income level, what education you have. Do not let anybody take it away. A job does not define you. You define yourself. A job is just a season. It's a passing, right? And yes, when we work somewhere, we get involved and we love it and we care for them. We'll do anything for it. But one day that job may not be there. And if we're all wrapped up about that, we're going to be in trouble. So take care of yourself.
Kind of to wrap things up here, if our listeners, Brandon, today remember 3 things as they go through their own transition, what are those 3 things you want them to take away from today's presentation?
Oh, man. Be true to you. Be true to you. Show up for yourself. Do not get down on yourself. So be true to you. Show up and do not get down on yourself. Those are three huge things. Not even only in business, but in personal life too, because we all go through stuff with kids, parents passing, dogs, cats, everything. Just it's a total encompassing journey.
Brandon Schaefer, I know that I can speak for our listeners. You always bring such insight, such energy, such caring and compassion and wisdom. They got all of that and then some today. I want to thank you for being with us today, for caring and sharing your thoughts and experiences. Thank you, Brandon.
Thank you, Bob.
Thank you for listening to today's podcast. We're working in unprecedented times as the world responds to the recent COVID-19 crisis. The fact is that even those who are not in transition understand it could be right around the corner, next month or a year from now. The purpose of these episodes are to give listeners support and the critical tools to adjust with the winds, wherever they come. I'll continue to introduce you to guests who have successfully, perhaps gracefully or without too many battle scars, survived their own obstacle courses and can share useful information on how to steady your ship or your world in this uncertainty. If today's message was helpful to you, please share it on social media. If you have any questions or podcast ideas for future conversations, reach out to me on LinkedIn. I appreciate your time you're investing in sharing these important conversations with me, my guests, and others who are going through life transition. Transitions between jobs, life stages, new entrepreneurial ventures, or whatever life brings. Change is constant. The more prepared you are for it, the better and easier the change will occur. Thank you again. This is your host, Bob Gerst. See you at our next episode of People in Transition.